What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, and I'm here with
Gertrude.
And today we're back to answer your questions in another episode of For the Greater.
You counted down, but you did it too fast, and I wasn't ready. This is a video series where we answer the questions left by you, the viewer. If you have a question for us, comment down below. Put question in front of your question, because we get to those questions first. That is what the D-Fool06 did. He asks, Orcs use teeth. The Imperium uses thrones. Tau use technology to trade. What does the Eldar and the Dark Eldar use for currency? How does the Eldar economy work in the craft world? So Dark Eldar, Eldar and Harlequins are three separate cultures. So let's tackle...
You could even say four with the...
craft, or the Exodites.
Exodites, yep.
So let's tackle the easiest one, the Exodites. Exodites are very, like, hippie-ish. So you can probably guess that they trade through like services or through like corn, wheat,
materials, skins, weapons.
Typical stuff that like we would see in modern cultures. Now let's move on to the craft world. The craft world has actually reached the pinnacle of society. Yeah. So their golden age passed, but that doesn't mean that their technologies from that golden age aren't still being implemented. They truly are like what the Tau are trying to be. They are self-sustaining, and they don't really need... the only thing they need is their infinity stones, right?
The soul stones.
The soul stones, there you go.
Well, it is an infinity
circuit.
Yeah.
Circuit, right?
Yeah. Infinity circuit, yep.
Yeah, but they don't use that for currency. That's just something that they seek.
Which is where their souls go, so they don't go to Slanesh, which is a pretty big thing.
Yeah. And then the Dark Eldar, they trade in slaves, pain, suffering.
Yeah.
And then the Harlequins...
I feel like they don't really need money, because their whole main thing is just to protect the Black Library and to ward off Slanesh and to perform in plays.
Mm-hmm.
But they trade Yu-Gi-Oh cards, Pokemon cards, Magic cards.
Basically.
Hearthstone.
Next question.
This one is by Futurescaped. WTF? What is Logar doing, and when is he and Best Boy Erebus going to return? So Lorgar is meditating in a tower, just amassing a huge amount of power. Chaos power, warp power.
I bet you that if GW ever does bring the Emperor back, Lorgar is going to be the opposite to him. Just because they've both been kind of in stasis, and they're just going to burst out with like raw power. I think Lorgar is going to be the next Horus. That's just a theory, though. Can't say for sure. What do you think is going to happen?
I mean, he's like we talked about in the previous episode. He's been the punching bag in 30k, and he's slowly been like regaining his badassness. And I think this is going to be the culmination of what he's pushing forth. So yeah, I could see him being like another Horus, but at the same time, I don't think he'll like do much.
Yeah, what you just said reminded me of the Rick and Morty episode with the devil, and how like at the end of the episode, spoiler alert, Rick and the chick, what's her name? I want to say Meg, but it's not Meg.
Oh, his sister?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But the sister, they start training, and they take steroids, and then they go beat up Nazis. So I feel like that's what Lorgar is going to do. He's going to step out of his little chamber. He's going to be like super swole, and then he's going to be beating people up. I don't know why I thought of that.
It's been so long since I've seen a Rick and Morty episode.
I rewatch him a lot because I like him.
Morgan B. Did you know that T3 Mand a la Bird is a twist on the French phrase Demand a la Bird, which means ask the bird in English? Yeah, I didn't know this either until a few moments ago. Thanks, Google. Since that name comes up a lot in your For the Greater WAAAGH videos, I figured you might want to get their name as correct as possible. So you can just say, it's Ask the Bird again.
Wow. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We'll take that into consideration. Next question comes from, what is it?
Ask the Bird again.
Ask the Bird again. I have to say that? I'm not going to remember that. How about I just say the bird? What would you like to be called? Why don't we ask the actual user? Your question is, lore-wise and then tabletop-wise, which faction has the fastest ground vehicles and flyers? So first let's talk about lore. I'm going to have to give it to the old Necrons.
Yeah.
Because they have physics-bending technology.
It's like, oh, gravity's a thing? Nah.
Yeah, not for us. We don't even live anymore. We have no souls. Even though souls aren't really like a scientific thing, but whatever. Tabletop-wise, who has the fastest? I want to say the Eldar.
Yeah, because they got like jet bikes and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll give it to the Eldar. Next question comes from that bird question again. Have the Tau and Orcs encountered the rat ghoul? The Orcs have. I don't know if the Tau have.
I don't know. I feel like if they did, it didn't end up well because like they would try diplomacy, obviously, and that's not gonna.
And the rat ghoul are actually found. Is it the Calixis sector? And the Calixis sector is in the Segmentum Pacificus, which is away from the Tau.
The eastern fringes.
Yeah. The Orcs have encountered them, and they think they're a good fight. So.
Grind 121. If a new person joined your D&D sessions, would you start them off as level 1 or boost them up around the same level as the current player?
Boost them up.
Yeah. It's never fun to have like uneven.
We played in a campaign like that. I was level 2, and then these guys were like level 3 or 4. And at level 3 is when you start to pick your archetypes for most classes. So it was tough. It was like, here I am, just basically hitting a wolf, and then the wolf kills me. And then here these guys are with their magic abilities and stuff. Yeah. We don't play that game anymore.
But it's always best to kind of put a level playing field, because that kind of boosts the morale of the group.
What's interesting is when a character dies. So in D&D, if your character dies, the DM that we've talked to, they're gonna let us come into the campaign with the D&D character at the same level. The only trickiness with that is like, you developed your character from 1 to whatever level you are. So just to start at that level and have like all these abilities, I don't think you would appreciate it as much. Like, I appreciate the fact that I'm a druid and that I've worked my way up to what I am now. But if I just became a bard at like 7th level and have all these abilities, I don't know, it's not the same.
But you got to come up with like a backstory to kind of overcome that. Oh, here I am, and here's how powerful I am.
Yeah, that's why he actually said like, I don't want to. He says like, because he said that if one of our characters dies, we'll probably take like 1 or 2 weeks before we could actually play, just so that we get the character down. And I thought, that's ridiculous. I could do it like right there and then. But now thinking about the lore behind the D&D character, yeah, I see how I would want to take like a week or 2 off of the game and kind of like figure out what my new character is going to be. Add to any of that if you guys have experience. We're very new to D&D.
Oh, it's the bird again. If the Rakagol are to be introduced to the tabletop, would you want them to appear in Kill Team, or what other way would be best to introduce them to the tabletop?
Kill Team, unfortunately, the Rakagol have very few like units. They do have units. They can do work because they even have their spaceships and stuff. But there'll be like 3 units of like the heavy troop, the regular troop, and then your HQ character. So I would rather have it be in Kill Team, where they're supposed to be smaller.
Yeah, I feel like they'd probably work best lore-wise in maybe Black Fortress.
Yeah, that'd be cool. We need to play that game. I heard it's fun. Next question. I have one from the bird again. Which unit needs a complete overhaul to be better, more competitive on the tabletop? For Tau, what do you think?
A complete overhaul?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like they kind of did that with 8th edition. I don't think anybody in particular needs a complete overhaul. I was gonna say the Ethereals, but I mean they're good where they're at. They're not supposed to be strong. They're just supposed to buff your army. Fire Warriors are like one of the best infantry guns. Suits, they got more wounds. Yeah, I can't think of anything that would need help.
For me, I definitely have one. Killer Cons and Death Dreads. They're horrible. They're too slow, and when they actually get into combat, they're not that strong unless they're fighting Tau. But Tau would just shoot them up. So in my codex, definitely the Killer Cons and the Death Dreads need to be reworked.
Speaking of reworking, Tomato of Doom has a pretty interesting question. What are your thoughts about changing the tabletop system into a D20 type ability? I recently started playing Pathfinder, and I like their system over the D6. For example, I feel like a simple tactical marine has the same safe roll of a 3+ as a Venerable Dreadnought or a Predator tank. A 2+ would be too strong for the Dreadnought, and a 4+ would be too weak for the Marine. But I don't think they should be on the same level.
No, I don't agree with you. I like the way that it is right now because it's simple and it's like you don't have to like. I get what you're saying because like lore-wise it doesn't make sense. It's like this is a giant machine.
Yeah, like how can a Marine have the same save as like a tank?
Yeah, but you gotta also remember that you're working with over 100 models sometimes on the tabletop, and it works for Pathfinder, it works for D&D because at most you have like 10 models on the battlefield, but when you're dealing with 100 models on your side, 100 models on his side, and you have to worry about like keeping different stats organized, having a 6-sided dice is probably, or it is good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then dealing damage, the same thing. Like if you roll a d20 for damage, like yeah, that you might get like good rolls, but it's nothing compared to rolling like 26-sided dice. The accumulated amount of damage is way more. So yeah. It's way more, and that's one thing I noticed about playing D&D is that damage, like it's kind of tricky. It's like, oh, I'm gonna get to roll a d10 or a d12 to do damage, and you think that's awesome, but then you roll a 3 or a 4, and you're like, well, that was a waste, and that's a possibility. Whereas like if you were to just roll 3 6-sided dice, the average is better.
Right, a 3 and a 4 isn't bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like maybe in like Black Fortress Kill Team, maybe a D20 would make things interesting because you're playing a lot smaller. But yeah, in regular 40k, it would slow down the game.
Yeah. And this is the last question. This is coming from the Fool06. Who would win in a thumb war? An iron hand or an imperial fist?
1, 2, 3, 4. I declare a thumb war. Damn, I don't know.
I'm gonna give it to the imperial fist just because they're all about defense. It's like.
I'm gonna give it to the Iron Warrior because they've tricked them before.
Have they?
Yeah, remember the Iron Cage, where it's like, oh, we're stuck in, and it's like, oh no, you're not trapped with us. We're trapped with you, and they like almost annihilated the whole chapter.
Yeah. No, but he's talking about the Iron Hands, and I think the reason he's talking about the Iron Hands is because they have Iron Hands. It's like Imperial Fist and Iron Hands, so it's like a play on words. So like the Iron Hands are like the Ferris Manus.
Oh yeah. I'm thinking Iron Warriors.
Yeah, if it was Iron Warriors and Imperial Fist, I see what you're saying.
Too many hands and fists, you get confused.
Yeah, it's just.
40k.
Does that change your mind at all?
Yeah, because that wasn't an option. Yeah, I'll go with the Imperial Fist.
And those are the questions for today. If you guys have more questions for us, comment down below. We have a Patreon. Don't forget, share our videos, and yeah.
Out.
Oh, if you could put my freedom first.